Go ahead.
Okay. Call to order this regular meeting of Ashcroft Council for Monday, December 14th, 2020. Due to Public Health Officer Ministerial Order M0192, this meeting is closed to the public, but will be broadcast by the Hub online network. So I would like to have a motion that this meeting is closed to the public, but will be broadcast by the Hub. Councillor Anstett makes that motion. Councillor Anderson seconds it. Thank you. Questions and comments received via email will be addressed by council at this meeting. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. I am making a motion to add 2 items to the agenda for tonight's meeting. One is a delegation by David Rhodes of Dawson Group, and the other is a year-end report by Councillor Anderson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anstett. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Anderson seconds that. Any discussion? On the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We have the minutes of the regular meeting of council from November 23rd, 2020. Councillor Davenport moves a motion to adopt as presented. Councillor Anderson seconds that. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing and hearing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting from Monday, November 23rd. Councillor Toohey moved to adopt as presented. Councillor Anstett seconds that. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing and hearing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Minutes of the special meeting of council held on Thursday, December 3rd. I move that those minutes be adopted as presented. Councillor Anstett seconds. Any errors or omissions? Seeing and hearing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. This takes us to delegations, and we do have Mr. David Rhodes, Quality Manager of Cariboo for Dawson Group. Over to you, Mr. Rhodes.
Well, thank you. And as I said earlier, this is quite a change for how we normally communicate and meet. But it's exciting to grow and recognize what teenagers go through every day, right? I just want to say thank you for welcoming me on reasonably short notice to join in with you and kind of update you. I'd like to update you on what's been going on with Dawson Road Maintenance and Dawson Group as a whole. Give you a little bit of what's happened over the course of the summer and provide you with kind of a winter strategy. So to begin with, from a management perspective, there's been a couple of changes. In one sense, we have our chief operating officer has become our chief executive officer and president of the company. Our owner, Ian Dawson, remains chairman of the board. And we are in the process of hiring a vice president of operations, and that person will be the key contact point, the voice of authority, if you will, for the Dawson Road Maintenance Group. We have the 4 service areas. We have 2 division managers. We had 4 quality managers, 1 for each service area. I was the quality manager for service area 16 here. Earlier this fall, one of our quality managers in Waynes Lake, the quality manager, suffered a heart attack and passed away. And so that put a lot of pressure on all of us. And we recognized, one of the things that's very difficult with the organization is a successorship plan. And so our division manager of administration, that's also the page many of you know, Elsie, she came up with a strategy, and we went through the process of approaching ministry with it and having approved at ministry and at our upper board meeting and stuff, where I take on the role of the quality manager for the Cariboo. So I'm the quality manager for both service area 16 and service area 17. And then we have hired in a couple of quality coordinators So that's a role directly beneath me. They will be reporting to me. We have one for each service area. And they will take on more of the field work, and I manage more of the administrative work and the longer term planning functions of the quality manager role for the organization. So that's a pretty big change. So I've just stepped into that role in the beginning of November. It's pretty exciting from a growth perspective, but it is challenging. So I just hope that you will all bear with us as we go through this change. Please feel free to reach out to myself or to Elsie or anybody else within within the organization if you're not getting answers or results that you're looking for. But I still will be your primary point of contact. Same phone number, same email address, and all of those things. So to look at the summer, we didn't actually get to do a post-winter meeting last year. If you remember, we rolled into COVID during the very later stages of the winter. And our response there, it was very profound, the change that we had to implement, and we had to do it very, very quickly. We have a lot of crew that interact, and we're always in close quarters. If you're familiar with our assembly room, it's a 12-foot wide ATCO trailer. So we pack 10, 12, 15 people in there at shift changes and stuff. It just didn't fit with the initial COVID response. We had to change some things there. And also our responsibility to the public changed in that stuff like our rest areas had to be the maintenance on them increased dramatically, with the sanitization more frequently. We also had to install a whole bunch of portable rest bathrooms, portable toilets for truck drivers and stuff like that. So they were placed at various locations and pullouts throughout the main corridor. And we had to, of course, then maintain those. And so that took some extra resources there. And Ministry of Transportation has helped us out financially with that, but it did require some change in our normal strategy and approach to things. And then we rolled into the freshet season, and from there you probably remember hearing a lot about the washouts, the incredible amount of risk at some of the bridges. We almost lost the bridge in the north end of the Bonaparte Reserve there. We put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tons of riprap in there to save the highway bridge. We had the bridges in Cache Creek, the same thing. We had 3 large sections where we had to do extensive work from Cache Creek, you rode in the Trans-Canada Highway. We had issues going on up at Barnes Lake, and there was just a tremendous amount of freshet things happening. We had 60 active sites. At one point, we had 9 roads closed in the South Cariboo, which was pretty dramatic. We had the Loon Lake washout through the canyon there, which isolated 300 plus people. And so from a Ministry of Transportation and emergency response perspective, we had to organizationally really stretch to bring on board enough project managers and things like that. We were very, very fortunate in that within the Dawson Group, with Dawson Civil and Dawson Construction, we have a large group who are very experienced with groundworks and road construction and all of those things, bridge construction. And so through that process, we were able to manage the sites fairly well. And of course, while they happened in Ashcroft and Cache Creek area, they also happened in Lillooet and Goldbridge and in House and Clinton and everywhere else. We ultimately had something like 150 active sites that we were monitoring and managing. We had to put in a bridge at Highland Indian Band as an example, because half of their community was isolated there. So we kind of rolled through all of that and got that managed. And then, of course, we had the heavy rains that happened in the end of June, early July there, and kind of rolled into a repeat of the whole thing. Although now it was different. We shored up one section of road, and then the failures were coming somewhere else. So We had that going on. Many of you are aware that up in Hat Creek, there was some issues out there. And from a couple of years ago, there were some other issues. The Ministry of Transportation has done extensive work out on Upper Hat Creek Road there to try and provide a solid, stable, safe passage in that area. And along with that, we had all of our routine works that we needed to do, getting roads graded up, for the gravel side roads, getting some patching done, getting our dust mitigation program in place and completed, mowing. So one of the real treats this year was in regard to mowing. Typically, we had the mowing contractor that would take, I'm going to say, 6 to 8 weeks to mow the entire service area. And he had 2, 3, 4 mowers working in different areas, but we would always start in Ashcroft and Lillooet because they have the grass is growing the earliest and the fastest because of the sun and the heat. And so this year we had a different contractor come in and he did the entire service area in 3 weeks. And so that was really amazing. I mean, we turned them loose at Clinton and asked them to head to Spence's Bridge and then do all the side roads on the way down and the way back. And the next afternoon he's phoning the operations manager and saying, okay, so I'm done Highland Valley, where do you want me to go next? It was just it was an amazing thing, and it was really beneficial to the community because when you have a vehicle like that that's obstructing traffic, you want it in and out quick. You don't want it to be dragging on over weeks and weeks and weeks. So the mowing was a huge improvement this year. We had the same fellow come through again later in the year and do all the roads again just prior to the August long weekend. To enhance the highway corridor safety there from wildlife and potential wildfire risks and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we went through the summer. Ministry of Transportation had a plan to pave the Trans-Canada Highway between Spence's Bridge and Venables Valley Road, Oregon Jack pit area there. And that unfortunately, they were not able to reach an agreement and finalization on that project to get it done this year. And so they asked us to do some paving on their very worst section. So we did a mill and fill down Oregon Jack Hill there. It was really bad from the last stage down the hill up to the start of the S corner, so the screens are before you drop into the Kingsway 4 lane. So we got that done this year. And now we're rolling into winter. We had the initial storm, of course, that happened in October that nobody was prepared for. I mean, we had 3/4 of our fleet out still graveling roads, trying to catch up with the graveling that the road, repairs from freshet. And so we had a very minimal crew. We keep about 30% of our equipment winter ready. But the storm wasn't even forecasted. We did not have, we have a forecaster that provides us some information. They really they said, oh yeah, you might get a bit of snow. And I think on the Friday you got ballpark 30 centimeters at the brake check above Desert Hills there, just before you drop into Ashcroft on the north side there, and Cache Peak side there. It was a tremendous out of the blue, but not really out of the blue, unforecasted that, wow, hey, it's winter. And so we struggled through that. I'm sure that many of you received calls on that. We certainly received a lot of calls on that, and had to change and adjust our strategy and approach for our graveling. We had to cancel a lot of that. The other thing that happened is that the provincial government provided a bunch of funds for stimulus programs. And some of those stimulus programs are basically shovel-ready programs that were designed to hire local contractors. And so we did an extensive amount of work. There was nothing really done right in Ashcroft, but there was an extensive amount of work done throughout the South Cariboo in various areas, hiring local contractors. We were asked to do a project that, we had some things that we've had on the burner for some time, and hey, we'd like to get these done, but they've never managed to pass approval, budgetary constraints and stuff like that. And so ministry got some funding and they said, okay, let's get these done. And so we hired subcontractors, whether it was a grader or a guy with a gravel truck, or this guy's got a packer, or this guy's got a small excavator, whatever it was, whatever things that we could throw together to get some of this work done. And ministry spent a significant amount of money on that. It was, I think pretty close to $2 million that they've spent so far in South Cariboo on that as a whole. So that was a good thing. If you know of something like that, if you know of some little project or you're aware of, you live on Barnes Lake Road and you see something like that, please don't hesitate to, approach either myself or the operations manager with your idea. And if more of that funding becomes available, and I'm sure that it appears that it will be coming, we'd love to do stuff. It's better for all of our communities. It's a win all the way around where we can get a population-based government system to spend money in rural areas, right? It's a huge win. And so if you know something like that, please don't hesitate to bring them forward. So now here we are in winter, and one of the things that we've done, we've had to make some more adjustments with our original strategy for how we would do brining. Not all yards have the capacity to safely mix and store brine. They have increased risk there. Not all yards have the capacity for water. And so we've made some adjustments in that area. We have 3 main yards now set up for brining, which is House and Clinton and Lillooet. And then the secondary yards will be doing storage tanks. Just about every yard has their own brine truck, which has a capacity for about 120 kilometers of road to do. And this brine application is a pre-treatment of the highway, so that we know a forecast is coming. We're going to get 2 to 5 centimeters of snow beginning tomorrow afternoon, but it's dry today. We're going to go out and brine the roads, and we're going to put down a thin layer of a salt brine. And what that's going to do is it's going to prevent the snow that comes down from actually bonding to the road, and it makes for an easier cleanup and a greater surface traction throughout the storm. It doesn't mean that we don't have to go plow and sand and salt and all those things, but it does to reduce the overall risk, and it prevents that snow from getting that bond that creates the really big compact right at the get-go. So we've got that in place now. That's one of the changes. We've had to change that from being in every yard, that brine mixing system, to those particular yards. We've increased our fleet in terms of we bought more new trucks. Ashcroft received another tri-drive wing truck. Clinton received another tri-drive wing truck. And these trucks, outside of being newer and more powerful, they have a larger cargo capacity. So when you look at filling up at the Ashcroft Indian band pit there with sand, that truck heading for Highland Valley can carry enough sand to actually get out to the back end of Highland Valley and sand his way back. So we can plow to the mine and sand all the way back, rather than getting up to the top of the hill and being out of material, right? And then having to come back, and the back end doesn't get done. And these bigger units have more capacity. And being wing trucks, they're fully, beyond one full lane. We can clear about a lane and a quarter or something like that. So it's about 18-foot span that it has, and that's a huge advantage in terms of just a truck going up there. If you're just going up there without a wing truck, you have a 10-foot wide path, and that's it. And it makes it kind of difficult, even a transport truck, to keep his whole truck in there as it goes around the corners and stuff. So a little bit of a change in strategy there. Another change that we've done is we've changed our shifts. So in previous years, our employees on winter shift, we maintained the roads 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we've had previously the crews would start at 6 o'clock and work till 2. Crews would start at 2 o'clock and work till 10 at night. Crews would start at 10 o'clock at night and work till 6 in the morning. And so we've got now 2 what we call primary shifts and 2 bridge shifts. So the primary shifts, the first one starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when the main bulk of the people on day shift will start work. And we're also working 8.8 hours a day, 4 shifts, 4 days on, 3 days off, rather than we were working 5 and 2 shift. So the idea being is that that key 5 o'clock starting time will now be out there. They should be out there ahead of all of the buses. Right? This has always been a bit of a challenge when you've got people that are out on this road, they're coming back in to bring the trucks in for a 6 o'clock shift change, and the buses are leaving oftentimes at 6 o'clock in the morning to get out to their endpoint to begin picking up kids at maybe 6:45 or 7 o'clock to bring them back to the school. So we had an earlier shift start there, they carry on, and then at 9:30 there's another shift comes on with 1 or 2 people, and they carry on past the day shift into the afternoon shift. So the afternoon shift, the main bulk of the afternoon shift comes in. These 2 people still transition through that shift, 1 or 2 depending on which day. And so that shift is fully bridged there. They typically will be on the big highways. And then at night, afternoon shift will go through and work through till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the bridge shift will come in on night shift about 9:30 at night, and they work through till 7:30 in the morning. So we've transitioned this. We've had somebody that's formerly did the plow routes for the city of Edmonton, and has a really good handle on how to manage this and the different shifts. And so we've approached ministry, and we of course had to approach the union members about this and get approval on both sides. But we have that approach this winter, so we really hope that that's going to improve things. Other areas where it's going to make a difference is perhaps that person coming in at 9:30 in the morning, rather than jumping into a plow truck, maybe the first thing he can do is go and take the snowblower across Ashcroft Ridge sidewalk as an example, rather than coming in at 6 o'clock and still snowing, he's off doing, managing that. So we're trying to have a strategy that provides a better service to the community as a whole, not only to the bus system, but also I know from my own experience living there, that corridor from North Ashcroft into Ashcroft is a huge pedestrian thoroughfare. So we have that. Crystal, our foreman there, hopefully is regularly in contact with your maintenance crews to ensure that, stuff like the sidewalks, we're not winging stuff up over the sidewalks without telling you, and the hill into Ashcroft, coming down from the north slope, that hill, it's ineffective for us to plow stuff over there after you've already gone there without telling you, because now the people are just going to call you and say, hey, well, I haven't done the sidewalk. So hopefully we have maintained that communication. She has been instructed to do that. Our bridge crews are also on different shifts now, so typically they don't have a lot of bridge work to do in the winter that is non-emergency. So we transition to a couple different shifts to manage better coverage for emergency response. They work on a 100-mile yard, but there is better availability in that area. So that about summarizes what I have to say. Any questions that you might have or anything that you can think of?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, David, for that. That was excellent. And you have already preempted me on the Ashcroft Bridge, because that's something, especially with that big dump that we got the week before Halloween. I did hear more than usual number of complaints about it and comments. And I think people do understand that not everywhere can be the first thing that you do. But as you have pointed out, it is quite a major corridor for people coming from North Ashcroft downtown. A lot of them are on the mobility scooters, and anything that can be done to just get to that bridge a little bit faster would be great. Yeah, and the part of that challenge, and of course it always is a challenge, is that ministry has a specification for virtually every part of their infrastructure that you could think of. And so when it comes to winter maintenance, they're pretty clear on how they want the approach made. They want the highways done.
then the secondary roads, the Class A roads, the Class B roads, the Class C roads. So the corridor of Highway 97C, from Trans-Canada Highway out to the mine is a B-class road. So that is just a grade lower than the Trans-Canada Highway and the Cariboo Highway. Well, it's the same as the Sea to Sky Highway. That Cornwall Road and Barnes Lake Road are Class C roads, so they're a little bit lower than that. And so all of these roads there's no longer what they used to have a response time. If it got to this much snow, you had so much time to get it removed. And that has all changed with the new specifications. The specification is now this is the maximum allowed snow period. So if it's an A-class road and it's the maximum accumulation in one lane of 4 centimeters, there is no time limit. That is just the maximum if. If you have to have 15 trucks on that road to keep it within specification, that's the requirement. And so it kind of has changed the maintenance strategy. And, you have to understand that from their perspective, the 10,000 vehicles a day up and down the Trans-Canada or the Cariboo Highway versus the 2,000 vehicles a day, down Highway 97C as an example of the other side roads, less response. And then when it comes to the sidewalks, they're saying that pedestrian access areas a 24-hour response time. So from the end of the snowfall, 24 hours to get out there and get that cleared off. And I know from my own experience, and you certainly know from living there currently, 24 hours is a light year when there's a foot of snow on the bridge sidewalk. Honestly, people, it's a regular walking path. I know, you all know Vicky Trill. I'm often out there 5 o'clock in the morning. Vicky was jogging, and I'd be out there at the sidewalk or something like that. And she's not the first person out there. There are people that use that all the time. And so I don't know how the best management cycle is. I can say whatever from here, and ultimately what has to happen is the local area foreman has to be able to delegate resources in there. And, if they can exceed that 24-hour response time, great. But if they can't, then they can't, if they're stuck on the highway. But it is important. We understand how important that is.
Thank you. And I just want to say too how much I appreciate your emails when there is an emergent event, such as roads closed because of floods. That is really appreciated because people do, again, contact us with questions about that. It's great to be able to quote an authoritative source who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is a strategy. It's been developing and ongoing through the course of time, and I think it's a really valuable tool. You probably, I BCC everybody on that, so I don't address it to mayor and council or anything like that. It's just hi all typically, but we send that send it out to the regional district emergency operations centers. We send it out to the police, to the fire, to the ambulance, to the provincial ambulance dispatch center, to the air ambulance dispatch center, all the search and rescue contacts that we have, volunteer fire departments, everybody. We throw everybody into that mix for that area because they are all key people that need to know that. And so it's a valuable tool. We sometimes include, depending on what it is, we might include, IG machine and fiber or, Highland Valley copper personnel as well, if there's stuff that's going to affect their commute into Ashcroft or whatever. So.
Great, thank you. And just a question too, you mentioned rest stops. Is it Dawson who maintains the one that left to mine was the Red Hills rest stop? And of course, you're getting the charging stations in there.
Yeah. So I haven't, I know that the charging stations are going in there. And I've just on a side note to that, I've asked them for Wi-Fi. I don't know if they're actually going to get it in there or not, but I did put in a request to get a Wi-Fi station there too. If you could, from your side, perhaps throw in that request as well. Hey, this is a great spot. The drawback to that, of course, is that they're less likely to come into town if they can stop and do their emails along the highway, right?
Mhm.
But I did ask for that specifically there because I know that it's a low cell area. You know, there's not much coverage there.
Yeah.
Although that may be changing, the tower on Ashcroft Hill and Ashcroft Ranch did improve it a little bit, but there's still quite a bit of a dead zone through there. So we do maintain that. I'm not sure how that will be for the actual charging station. That may be a separate contract, you know, that component of it.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions, comments for David? No? Well, thank you very much, and thank you for all that you do for our roads, and it's great to speak to someone who has that really local knowledge. Really wonderful. And congratulations on your new position, and best of luck with your new responsibilities.
Thank you. I hope I exceed the corporate expectations, but my heart will always be in Ashcroft. Just so you know. It is, it's, you know, they say BC is the best place on earth, and I'm a firm believer Ashcroft is the best place on earth.
Well, thank you very much. Well, Merry Christmas to
Thank
you.
you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Always easy to understand.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it makes it layman's term.
All right, we move on to public input. We have some public feedback here from Gloria Mertens of Rattlesnake Road. She prefaces her comments with the request that her feedback be read aloud and answered at the open meeting. And I will note that these rather detailed comments and response requests came in at 3:45 this afternoon for our 4:30 meeting. Subdivision bylaw. The Village commissioned Urban Systems to conduct a review and revision of subdivision bylaw number 480 back in 2018. Now that the bylaw is being read for the third time and is to be adopted, I am wondering what the overall cost to the village was for the new bylaw. The original budget for that was $69,000 approximately. That was approved in early 2018. So the work has taken just under 3 years and has come in under budget. And I will in advance like to thank staff for very quickly getting the answers together for these, given the short lead time they had. The old bylaw adopted in 1989, this is the subdivision development and servicing bylaw, required new subdivisions in the village to have underground services. All services in the Mesa Vista neighborhood are serviced with underground services. If a new subdivision is developed on the Mesa, the new subdivision bylaw now would only require above ground services. If the bylaw passes third reading today, would that mean that any developers for subdivisions on the Mesa cannot be obliged to put in underground services? The answer to that is developers are not obliged, but may choose to install underground services. The Landucci Tallarico subdivision in North Ashcroft is obliged to follow the old subdivision bylaw because approval was granted before the adoption of the new bylaw. Am I interpreting correctly that that means they are required by subdivision bylaw number 480/1989 to have underground services? The answer is there are existing services at the Government Street development site, and it is likely that the developers will tap into those. The 2019 strategic plan was purposely developed to complete in 2020, enabling the new CAO and council to undertake strategic planning initiatives. One of those initiatives was for looking into the acquisition of a portable digital sign. This item was dismissed as a priority because of community feedback from a survey indicated this is not a community priority. However, the initiative was for a portable digital sign, not for a stationary digital sign, which all nearby communities in our region have. The reply, this is not a priority as per the community survey. It may be revisited at some point, but it is not in the strategic plan for 2021-22. In the strategic plan report to council, staff states, quote, residents primarily asked clarification questions and provided comments. There were no specific requests for additional items to be added or changes to be made to the plan, end quote. I heard from one resident, however, a request to reconsider this priority and look into acquiring a stationary digital sign. The reply, this has been considered and reconsidered, and at this time is not a council priority. In light of the fact that the HARS Heat Alert Response System team report recommended the use of less internet-type communications and more direct, old-school means of communication, as well as the fact that emergency services recommends as many methods as possible to reach all area residents and visitors, will council consider this priority and look into a stationary digital sign, especially since there will be yet another office person hired starting in January who could take this on and program any notices for the digital sign on an as-needed basis. Regarding bylaw enforcement, it is my understanding that the money for this initiative is coming from the government's COVID recovery fund. Does this mean that the bylaw enforcement position will only be for a limited amount of time until funds are no longer available? And is part of the mandate of the enforcement officer to enforce COVID-related infractions? Could you estimate for how long such a position will be in place? Council has never stated that this position is funded by COVID relief. Any COVID-related infractions will be paid with relief funds. Other expenses are a budgeted item. The position is ongoing, and the initial inter-community agreement is for a 3-year term with an opt-out at 2 years if a community does not find value in the service. Fire department. It seems that 3 vacancies at the same time is highly unusual and possibly signals a mass resignation of officers. I can only assume this might mean that the officers are under a lot of stress and that this might be an indication of additional support needed from the village as the body that governs the oversight of the AFD and its compliance with the various legislated acts and regulations. I note that on the 2019 closed meeting motions released to the public, 2 motions that dealt with the fire department. One, that the Village of Ashcroft bylaw number 486, establishment of an operation of a fire department, be repealed, June 24, 2019. And that the council support the retaining of the AFD as a municipal service, November 12, 2019. I have a couple of questions. First, bylaw number 486 is not on the village website. In fact, this is not the only bylaw I've asked to view that is not on the village website. Could the village put the bylaws that are not on the website up on the website so that they can be viewed by the public, especially since in these times of COVID, there are already restrictions put on the public with respect to attending meetings and visiting the office? The response from staff: the most requested bylaws are on the website. We cannot anticipate all bylaws that residents may wish to access, but it is posted that other bylaws can be accessed by request. Staff will forward the bylaw to you. Second point, I have read the TNRD's fire department's review main report from 2017 and note that a number of recommendations were put forward due to the additional demands put on the fire departments for reporting, inspecting, and training. My second question is how many of these recommendations, especially with respect to recruitment and retention, have been implemented? The response from staff: we will get back to you, although council, staff, and the fire department are working together to support the fire department and meet the needs as presented by the department. Finally, in the 2019 annual report, it indicates that the AFD responded to 50 call-outs. Of these, 17 of the 50 were for highway rescue, the highest category of call-outs. The others were VOA, Village of Ashcroft 15, Cache Creek Assist 1, Fire TNRD 6, Hazmat Village of Ashcroft 3, Hazmat TNRD 1, False Alarm 6, Assist Emergency Help 1. The report mentions that these callouts are completely voluntary. which I assume to mean no stipend, no covering of expenses, etc. As this category is the largest category and obviously a very important service, I ask, will the council consider providing some financial support for this service to be maintained? Answer, the fire department members are paid for call-outs and practices. However, they are not paid for highway rescue. This is being addressed as the bylaw and constitution are updated under the START plan. All right, we move on to section 5 bylaws. We have bylaw number 841, Village of Ashcroft Council Procedures Amendment Bylaw for reconsideration and final adoption. What is council's pleasure on this? Someone, Councilor Davenport.
Put forward a motion to council consider and approve final adoption of the Village of Ashcroft Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 841, 2020.
Thank you, Councilor Davenport. Second, Councilor Toohey. Any discussion on this? The only change is the change of the time standardizing at 6 p.m. So this is our last 4:30 meeting. Yeah. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.2, bylaw number 839, Village of Ashcroft Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw. Councilor Anstett.
I move that council reconsider and approve the final adoption of the Village of Ashcroft Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw number 839, 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Anderson. Any discussion on this? It's exactly 3 years after we started. All right, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, indeed. Staff reports, item 6.1. We are asked to decide on the report of the council meeting schedule for calendar year 2021. Now, I would like to move the council approve the 2021 Ashcroft Council meeting date schedule as presented. Councilor Anderson seconds. Thank you. And of course, everything on here about SILGA, FCM, UBCM is all subject to change without notice at this time. Any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 6.2, CAO report, the 2021-2022 strategic plan. I will move the council adopt the 2021-22 strategic plan and support the plan throughout its duration. Councilor Davenport seconds that. Any discussion? Very ambitious. Lots of things on here. I realize it's one thing for us to say, I think we should overview the heritage part. And I am not going to be out there doing structural assessments of any of the buildings. So thank you in advance to staff for supporting us through this and taking on these challenges that we've presented to you. Any other comments on the strategic plan for 2021-22? No, on the motion, then all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have a motion about bylaw enforcement. What is council's pleasure on item 6.3? Councilor Anstett, I saw your hand.
I move forward that council direct administration to request the Ministry of Attorney General to add the Village of Ashcroft to the list of local governments practicing adjudication under the local government bylaw and notice enforcement act.
Thank you very much. Councilor Anderson seconds that. Any discussion? Your formality? Great. Let's be moving forward. Any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 6.4, CAO report, Fire Department Officer appointments. I will move that We appoint the fire department officers as elected and appoint the deputy chief as acting chief until that position is filled. Councillor Davenport seconds. Any discussion? No? All right, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Grant writer. What is council's pleasure regarding a grant writer for 2021? Councillor Davenport.
I move that staff be approved to submit a grant writing support program application to Northern Initiative Trust for the 2021 intake.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson seconds. And I'm assuming that Vicky Trill will be presenting us with a report here early in the new year regarding 2020. As far as you know, has it been a successful year? I know last year was very successful.
I actually just received the spreadsheet that she applied for over $2 million in funding as required. I think it's, and only 708,000, I believe, was approved. So, a good turnout.
Great. Thank you. Any further discussion? On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Correspondence, item 7.1, looking for support for Bill C-213, Canada Pharmacare Act. I move that the Village of Ashcroft support the Canada Pharmacare Act and send a letter to that effect, supporting bill number C-213.
Second.
Councillor Tui, thank you. Any discussion? Nope. It's been a centerpiece of the government, several governments for a while now, so I'd like to see this move ahead. I'm sure we all know people who have decided not to fill prescriptions because the choice between filling a prescription and having food. Mhm. All right, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. And we have some information correspondence. Councillor Tui.
I'd like to move that we receive and file the information.
Thank you. Councillor Anstett seconds. Any discussion on any of the items in the information correspondence? No. On the question, then all those in favor? Opposed, carried. And 8.1, the task manager. Move to receive and file. Councillor Davenport seconds that. Is there any discussion on any of the items? No, I did sign something about our 2020-191 about the encroaching agreement, so that has been signed and done and dusted, I think. And anything else? We're gonna have the TNRD, Jamie Vera, come to talk to us about invasive plant management in the new year, which will be exciting. Well, as exciting as invasive plant management can be. Your mileage may vary on that one. All right, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. We have the minutes from the bylaw enforcement working group, and we do have a recommendation attached there too. Councillor Anstett.
I'd like to make a motion that the Village of Ashcroft approve option 2 as the bylaw enforcement officer budget for 2021 and onward until the service is terminated or budget is revised.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Anderson, discussion. Councillor Anderson.
I think this is a good step forward in moving with the bylaw enforcement officer for the 3 respective villages. So I think it's long time due
Thank you.
and welcome.
And it's my understanding that anything that is a COVID-related bylaw enforcement can be billed back for the time being, at least to the ministry. So we do not have to dip into our own funds for that. Anything that is not COVID-related, we will pay for. But they can do either or. They don't have to focus on one or the other. It's whatever comes up. And there will be an overriding bylaw for all three communities, looking at what the bylaw officer does so that they're not pulled in 17 different directions. And they're all clear about what our priorities are. All right, any other comments? Dr. Davenport?
Just, I may be missing this in the information here, but is there a projected start date after, all justice settled on the agreement?
Councilor Anderson?
Yeah, well, there's not really a projected start date yet, because we still have a few hoops to go through, hiring and so on as
Right.
well. But I'm hoping by the spring, 2020, March, maybe, I'm just gonna throw it out there, but I'm not certain it's going to be exactly in March, maybe by April.
Okay, Inge?
Yeah.
CFO Bala?
Just a comment about the budget. The budget is set regardless of COVID-related funding. So unless, agreement terminates, it's an ongoing position.
If I may to, your motion today to choose option 2 reduced your initial, beginning, the first year cost by 50%. It was initially you'd approved $50,000. We went back to the drawing board, revised, came up with other options, and the new budget is only $25,000 for the first year and then less after that. Yeah,
15 years after the first.
so we did some serious number crunching.
Thank you very much. All right. Any further discussion on the question? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. We move on to council reports, and I do have a report for December dated for this meeting, December 14th, and I would like to move that we write a letter to the RCMP expressing concern about the current staffing levels at the Ashcroft RCMP detachment. Councillor Anstett seconds that. Any discussion on this? No. Okay. We have one roadable constable at the moment. Another on light duty, a third who's here from depot and a fourth position not filled. All right, on the motion, all those in favor? Carried. And is there any discussion, comments on anything in my December 14th report? I didn't think I would have much to report for that 2-week period, 3-week period, and then I realized when I started to write it that I did. So. Historic Back Creek, I understand that the first, now 2 weekends, they're open again this coming up weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I understand it's been going quite well. They, back in the distant past, did have the gift shop open, but now this is the first time it's been open, and it's the new one, which opened in May of 2017. So they went on quite a buying expedition in January, and they got some really lovely things in there, and it was a shame that they couldn't open it or something. All right, and then we have a report, a year-end report from myself, from Councillor Anstett, and from Councillor Anderson. Any comments on any of those reports? No? In that case, I move that we take this meeting into a closed session. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I would just be remiss. One of the questions that was asked from Gloria was read but not answered.
No, it wasn't a question, it was a comment.
It was a comment, not a question.
No, I believe you're right, there was one.
Oh,
So the question is about the HARS team report. Will council consider this priority and look into a stationary digital sign, especially since there'll be yet another office person hired starting in January that could take this on and program any notices for the digital sign on an as needed basis.
yeah, that's just not again.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you.
We received some police charge.
Just
I think the only answer to that is, again, it's been considered and reconsidered. At this time, it is not a council priority. Situations can change very quickly. And I was remiss in not asking if you had any questions during the public comments.
Oh, actually, the only thing I wanted to say was, so this has been the first full year of filming council meetings. So thank you for letting us do that. And I believe we're going to be going live starting at the very next one, right? So everybody at home, be prepared for that.
And so no pressure. And thank you very much to the Hub Online Network for making this available. I don't think any of us had any idea when we started the process of having these meetings filmed more than a year ago, how crucial that was going to end up being in light of what has happened this year. I think we all just felt that it was something that, well, we should do. It's nice. People can then watch it at their leisure. None of us had any idea how important, how critical it was going to be to have this kind of facility. I know a lot of small communities, especially in the province, are really struggling with what it is going to look like with council meetings. They had a really hard time at the beginning of the pandemic. Some of them took months, literally, to figure out a way to broadcast their meetings. So this is, and as this continues, councils up and down the province are looking at what they need to do to their facilities, because a lot of council facilities are older buildings. They don't have the technological requirements and technical requirements. It's wonderful for us to have something like the Hub Online Network that has the technical know-how and the equipment to just step right in and continue providing this service. So thank you very much. And we look forward to the live event in 2021.
We're going to see how well a live event goes with our new system here. And what I will do for the first meeting in January, I'll set myself up as a delegation and provide you guys with some numbers. And how many people watched, how many minutes people watched, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll provide that at the first meeting in January.
Great. Thank you very much.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
So we do have a motion to take this into closed session. All those in favor? Carried? There we go. So Gareth, if it's not too intrusive a question, how